I always loved summer. The heat, the smell of pine, the long days that seemed to never end. But that summer, the one at the lake house, it didn't feel endless. It felt like it was closing in on me, tighter and tighter, until I could barely breathe. My parents rented a lake house in northern Michigan. It was old, built sometime in the 1940s, wooden panels, chipped white paint, and a porch that looked like it would collapse if too many people stood on it. But the view, God, the view was perfect. The lake stretched out like glass. The water reflected the golden sun in the morning, and at night the moon sat on its surface like a silver coin. I was 17. I didn't want to spend my summer stuck in the middle of nowhere. No friends, no parties, just silence. But my parents kept telling me, "You'll remember this summer forever." They had no idea how right they were. The first night I unpacked my things upstairs. The floorboards creaked under my weight. The room smelled like cedar and dust. I opened the window, and a cold breeze slid in, carrying the sound of the lake lapping against the dock. That's when I noticed something. Across the lake, far on the other shore, was another house. It was barely visible through the trees, but I could see the faint outline of its roof, and one glowing window. Someone was there, watching the same lake I was. The second night, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the dock. The boards were damp, slick with algae. The night air wrapped around me, cool and heavy. That's when I saw him. At first I thought it was just the reflection of the moon, but no. There was a man standing at the end of the dock, tall, thin, unmoving. He didn't say a word, didn't even turn his head, just stared out at the water, as if he was waiting for something. I froze. My chest tightened. I whispered, "Dad?" But it wasn't my dad. When I blinked, he was gone. The dock was empty. Only the sound of the water remained. I hurried back inside, locking the door behind me. My parents laughed when I told them. "Probably a fisherman," my dad said. But I knew better. There had been no boat, no lantern, nothing. Just him. A few nights later, the noises began. Scratching. At first, I thought it was raccoons. The lake house was surrounded by woods. It made sense. But then I realized the sound wasn't outside. It was coming from under my bed. I woke up in the middle of the night. The scratching was slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. I held my breath, listening, and then it stopped. I forced myself to look, slowly leaning over the edge of the mattress, peering into the darkness beneath. Nothing. The next morning I checked again. The wood floor under my bed had fresh marks, 4 long scratches, deep, like something had tried to claw its way out. By the 4th day, I was obsessed with the other house across the lake. Every night, that same window glowed. Sometimes I swore I saw someone standing in it, a pale figure, still, motionless, always watching. I asked my parents about it. They shrugged. Probably another rental. Families come up here all the time. But I noticed something strange. Whenever I stared at that house, the scratching under my bed returned, almost like it knew, like the thing under the floor wanted me to keep looking. One night a storm rolled in. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder shook the windows. The lake churned violently, waves crashing against the dock. I couldn't sleep. I stared out my window at the other house. Its single glowing window was still there, even in the storm, even through the sheets of rain. That's when I saw it. A shadow moved across the window, slowly, as if it knew I was watching. I gasped, and right then, the scratching under my bed exploded. Louder, faster, like claws tearing into the floor. I screamed for my parents. They rushed in, half asleep. I pointed at the bed. My dad grabbed a flashlight and knelt down. He swept the light across the floor. Nothing. No scratches, no marks. Just smooth, polished wood. My parents thought I was losing it, but I knew I wasn't. I knew something was there. The storm finally passed. The air was damp. The woods smelled of wet pine. That night, I woke to a sound that made my blood run cold. Footsteps. On the stairs. Slow. Heavy. Each one groaning against the old wood. I froze. The footsteps reached the top, stopped just outside my room. The door handle turned, and then it stopped. I lay there, shaking, staring at the door. Minutes passed, hours maybe, and then the sun rose. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty, but on the floor just outside my room were wet footprints. They led down the hallway and disappeared at the top of the stairs. The last night, I made a mistake. I went back to the dock. The air was still, the water perfectly calm, but the moment I stepped onto the dock, I saw him again, the tall man. Only this time, he wasn't at the end. He was standing in the water, chest deep, motionless, staring at me. His skin was pale, bloated, like he'd been underwater for days. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, just stood there paralyzed. He lifted his arm and pointed at me. Behind me, the scratching started again, only louder, closer, like it was coming from inside the walls of the house. I ran back into my room, slamming the door, hiding under the covers like a child. And for hours I listened, to the scratching, to the footsteps, to the whispers outside my window. By morning, it all stopped. We left the next day. My parents thought I'd imagined it all. They said I was just tired, overheated, too much imagination. But when I glanced across the lake one last time, that window was still glowing. And this time, the pale figure in the glass was waving goodbye.
The summer I turned 19, I drove cross-country with 2 friends. We were broke, exhausted, and desperate for cheap places to crash at night. That's how we found it. A little roadside motel in the middle of nowhere, Nevada desert. The air still burned at midnight. The asphalt shimmered like fire. The sign flickered weakly. Half the letters missing. It just read, "Tell." We should have kept driving, but we didn't. We pulled in. And that's when everything went wrong. The lobby smelled of mildew. The carpet was stained. The air conditioner rattled like it was choking. Behind the desk sat an old man, skin like leather, eyes that didn't blink. "We need a room," my friend Josh said. The old man slid a key across the counter. No words, just a key. Room 6. We thanked him, but he didn't move, didn't even nod, just stared as we walked away. The room looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. The wallpaper peeled. The bed sagged. The bathroom sink dripped endlessly. But the strangest thing, there was no TV, no phone, just an old wooden dresser, and a mirror nailed to the wall. The mirror was cracked, jagged lines running across the glass like spider webs. I caught my reflection. It looked off. Like the cracks bent my face into something else. Something that wasn't quite me. We tried to sleep, but around 2 a.m., the scratching started. At first, it was faint, like rats moving inside the walls, but then it grew louder, sharper, like fingernails dragging down plaster. We sat up in bed, listening. The sound circled the room, from one wall to the next, until it stopped directly behind the mirror. And then, the mirror rattled. We froze, watching. The cracked glass trembled, like something was pressing against it. "Let's get out of here," Josh whispered. But the door wouldn't open. The knob wouldn't even turn. Around 3 a.m., the scratching stopped. The room fell silent. Too silent. That's when we heard it. Footsteps. Out in the hallway. Slow, dragging, like someone pulling their feet across the carpet. We pressed our ears to the door. The steps stopped. Right outside room 6. Then 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. Boom, boom, boom. We didn't answer. A minute later, the footsteps dragged away. But none of us slept. At sunrise, we stumbled out of the room, exhausted, shaken. The hallway stretched long and narrow. The carpet was damp beneath our shoes. That's when I noticed something. Every other door was chained shut. Rusty padlocks, heavy chains. Some even had boards nailed across them. Room 2, room 3, room 4, all sealed. Only room 6. The one we stayed in was open. Josh muttered, "What the hell is this place?" None of us had an answer. We went back to the lobby. The old man was still there. Same position, same unblinking eyes. Josh slammed the key down. "What the hell happened last night?" The old man finally spoke. His voice was cracked, dry, like sandpaper. "You stayed in the wrong room." That was all he said. We demanded answers. He just stared. Until finally he whispered, "Room 6 was never supposed to be opened. We should have left right then, driven until the car gave out. But the heat was brutal. And we were broke. So stupidly." We stayed one more night. This time we begged for a different room. The old man hesitated, then slid us a new key. Room 2. When we walked down the hall, the chains were gone, the padlocks removed. The door to room 2 stood wide open, waiting for us. Room 2 looked identical to room 6. Same peeling wallpaper, same dripping sink, same cracked mirror nailed to the wall. We should have run. But exhaustion pulled us down. That night, I woke to a sound that made my stomach twist. Breathing. Not ours. Heavier, slower, coming from the mirror. I sat up, heart pounding. In the cracked reflection, I saw 3 shapes. Us, sleeping in bed, and something else. A tall, thin figure, standing in the corner. I turned my head. The corner was empty. But in the mirror, he was still there. I woke Josh and the others. We didn't even grab our bags. We just ran. Through the hall, down the stairs, past the old man. His head turned slowly as we passed. And for the first time, he smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was knowing, cruel, almost proud. We bolted into the car. The engine roared. We sped down the highway without looking back. But even now, when I close my eyes at night, I still see the cracked reflection, still hear the scratching in the walls, still wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed one more night.